Nathan Cole read my transfer request out loud in front of the entire executive team and smiled like I had just embarrassed myself. "So, this is your new strategy, Olivia?" he asked, his voice cold enough to make the room go still. "You stopped getting my attention, so now you threaten to leave my department." Vanessa Blair lowered her eyes beside him, pretending to be uncomfortable, but I saw the corner of her mouth lift. In my last life, that tiny smile had been enough to make me panic. I would have explained. I would have apologized. I would have promised Nathan I was not jealous, not emotional, not unprofessional, not trying to make trouble for him. This time, I only unlocked my tablet. "I'm not threatening anything," I said. "The transfer was approved by HR at 8:26 this morning. My access to strategic operations ends at 5 p.m. today." The room fell silent. Nathan's smile disappeared. I slid my old access card across the conference table, right past Vanessa's manicured hand. "And for the record," I added, "I am no longer available for work outside my job description, personal errands, emergency favors, family arrangements, or after-hours cleanup." Nathan stared at me as if I had spoken in a language he did not understand. I met his eyes calmly. Then I saved the meeting recording to the secure folder Miriam Roth had asked me to create, because in this life, I was not here to win Nathan Cole's heart. I was here to take back my own. I had loved Nathan Cole for 5 years. That was the kind of sentence that sounded simple until you counted what it had cost. 5 years of answering his calls before the second ring. 5 years of rescheduling my own birthdays because his board decks needed revisions. 5 years of memorizing his coffee order, his flight preferences, his mother's medication schedule, his investor allergies, his speech rhythm, his silence. 5 years of standing one step behind him while everyone praised his composure. No one knew how often that composure had been mine. No one knew how many crises I had swallowed before they reached his desk. No one knew that the night before Larkspur Group won the Meridian account in my last life, Nathan had been at a private gallery opening with Vanessa Blair while I sat on the bathroom floor of the office bleeding from a stress-induced ulcer, still rewriting his pitch. He won the account. Vanessa received flowers. I received a text at 3:14 a.m. "Good work. Make sure the board packet is clean by 7 o'clock. I had smiled at that message like an idiot. In my last life, I thought being needed was the first step to being loved. I died knowing I had been wrong. The last thing I remembered before waking up in this life was a hospital ceiling, white and blurry above me. My body had felt hollow. My phone kept lighting up on the bedside table, but my hand was too weak to reach it. Nathan had not called. His assistant had sent one message. "Mr. Cole is unavailable. Please cooperate with legal regarding the Meridian investigation." Cooperate, that was what they called it when they needed someone quiet enough to blame. Vanessa had leaked a confidential preview file to a competitor, then used an old folder path that still carried my name. Nathan had protected her because she cried. The board had suspended me because I had no proof. The industry had whispered that I was obsessed with Nathan, angry about Vanessa, and desperate enough to sabotage the company. I lost my job. I lost my reputation. I lost the man I had never truly had. Then, in a hospital room where no one came, I lost my life. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in conference room 12, 20 minutes before Nathan would humiliate me for the first time. At first, I thought death had a sense of humor. The glass walls, the long black table, the silver pitcher of water, the scent of cold coffee and expensive cologne, my tablet open in front of me with the transfer request I had drafted in my last life but never sent. Except this time, it was marked sent. Not just sent, approved. My breath stopped. There it was in my inbox from Human Resources. Department transfer confirmation. Effective date. Today. 5 p.m. In my last life, I had deleted that email before the meeting because I was terrified Nathan would think I had betrayed him. I remembered the shaking of my fingers. I remembered whispering to myself that he was under pressure, that he needed me, that leaving him now would be cruel. I had stayed. And staying had killed me. This time, my fingers did not shake. Across the room, Vanessa Blair sat beside Nathan with her pale pink notebook open and no pen in her hand. She never took notes. She did not need to. Nathan always assumed she understood. She looked exactly as I remembered, soft waves of blonde hair, pearl earrings, a delicate cream blouse that made her look harmless. Her eyes moved over me, then to the tablet in front of me. She knew. Of course she knew. Vanessa had always known when I was close to breaking. She had a gift for stepping lightly on bruises. Nathan entered at 9 o'clock sharp. The room changed around him. That was the effect he had on people. He was tall, clean-cut, contained, dark suit, silver watch, unreadable eyes. He never raised his voice because he had never needed to. His disappointment could shrink a room faster than another man's rage. In my last life, I had found that strength beautiful. Now I saw what it truly was. A man who had learned that silence made other people rush to fill the gap. I did not move. His gaze paused on me for half a second, then passed to Vanessa. "Let's begin," he said. The first 30 minutes went exactly as I remembered. Meridian account timeline, brand repositioning, investor presentation, client concerns, Vanessa's creative direction. My operational framework stripped of my name and placed under Nathan's final strategy slide. The first time, I had waited for him to mention me. He had not. The second time, I did not wait. Vanessa leaned forward near the end of the meeting and said, "I just want to thank Nathan for trusting me with the Meridian repositioning. It was intense, but I think the emotional core of the campaign is finally right." The emotional core. She had missed 3 client calls, ignored 2 legal comments, and once sent a draft deck with the wrong company name on slide 8. I had corrected everything. Nathan nodded. Vanessa brought clarity to a difficult account. He said. A few people clapped lightly. I watched my own hands rest on the table, calm, still, like they belonged to someone who had already walked out of the burning house. Then Harold Pierce, one of the independent board members, glanced at me. "Olivia, were you supporting the operational side?" Before I could answer, Nathan spoke. Olivia assisted where needed. Assisted. 5 years of carrying his department reduced to one word. Vanessa lowered her eyes, hiding another smile. Then Nathan turned to me fully. "And that brings me to something else. I knew what was coming, my transfer request. In my last life, my face had burned before he even opened his mouth. This time, I clicked my recording app. Company policy allowed personal meeting notes for internal accuracy as long as confidential material was not distributed. I had checked that twice before the meeting started. Nathan lifted a printed sheet from his folder. "Apparently, Olivia has submitted a request to transfer to compliance and risk." Several heads turned toward me. Vanessa's lips parted, a performance of surprise. Nathan looked at me with the same expression he used when an analyst made an obvious error. "So, this is your new strategy, Olivia?" he asked. "You stopped getting my attention, so now you threaten to leave my department." There it was, the public humiliation, the specific betrayal, the relationship crisis he thought I would rush to deny. Heat moved through my body, but it was not shame this time. It was memory. It was the old Olivia, somewhere inside me, still flinching. I let her flinch. Then I let her go. "I'm not threatening anything," I said. My voice sounded calm enough that even I almost did not recognize it. Nathan's eyes narrowed. I turned my tablet toward the room. The transfer was approved by HR at 8:26 this morning. Miriam Roth accepted the internal move. My current access ends at 5 p.m. today. Silence landed hard. Someone at the end of the table shifted in their chair. Vanessa blinked. Nathan did not, at least not at first. Then he looked down at the paper in his hand as if the approved transfer might disappear if he stared hard enough. "You didn't discuss this with me," he said. "I followed the internal transfer policy. You report to me until 5 p.m. That was the first crack, not in his face exactly. Nathan was too disciplined for that. But his hand stilled on the paper. His jaw tightened by a fraction. His gaze sharpened, not with anger yet, but with disbelief. In every version of our lives until that moment, I had made his disbelief impossible. I had always returned. I had always explained. I had always softened. Not today. Nathan set the paper down. "We'll discuss this after the meeting." "No, I said. A few people looked at me as if I had dropped a glass. Nathan's eyes lifted slowly. No. I repeated. There is nothing private to discuss. You introduced the matter in a public meeting. I'm answering it in the same meeting. Vanessa gave a tiny inhale. Nathan heard it. His gaze flicked to her, and something protective moved across his face. There it was again, the instinct I had spent years trying to earn. All Vanessa had to do was breathe. I leaned back in my chair. For clean transition purposes, I'll send a full handover list by noon. Any open strategic operations items will be assigned by task owner. I will not continue informal duties after today. Nathan's voice dropped. What informal duties? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because once I would have protected him from the answer. After hours deck revisions not logged in the project system. I said. Private travel changes. Personal gifts. Investor preference tracking outside approved files. Your mother's appointment reminders. Vanessa's client corrections. Emergency speech notes. Weekend calls marked urgent that were not company emergencies. The room became very still. Nathan's face turned hard. That's enough. It is. I agreed. That's why I'm stopping. Vanessa finally spoke. Soft and wounded. Olivia, I never asked you to correct anything for me. I looked at her. No. I said. You only sent files to me with messages like. Could you make this sound more like Nathan? I don't want to bother him while he's stressed. Her cheeks colored. Nathan turned toward me. This is unprofessional. In my last 5 years here, I said, I confused availability with professionalism. I won't make that mistake again. That sentence was for him, but it was also for the woman I had been. I picked up the access card clipped to my jacket, black plastic, silver logo, strategic operations, my name beneath Nathan's division for years. I had worn it like proof that I belonged near him. I unclipped it and placed it on the table. The sound was small. The room heard it anyway. I'll return the physical access card to security after the meeting. I said. I'm placing it here now because I want everyone clear on the timeline. Nathan stared at the card. For the first time since I had known him, he looked almost caught off guard, not hurt. Not sorry, just surprised that something he considered his had moved without permission. Harold Pierce cleared his throat. Ms. Hayes, please copy my office on the handover documentation. I will. I said. Miriam Roth had told me to create a secure folder. Harold's request would make it official. Nathan looked at Harold with respect. This is a departmental staffing issue. Harold's tone remained mild. It became a governance issue when you read the transfer request aloud in an executive meeting. Another silence. Vanessa looked down at her notebook. Nathan said nothing. He ended the meeting 7 minutes later. No one moved at first. Then chairs scraped. Laptops closed. People avoided looking at Nathan directly, which meant they looked at me instead. In my last life, that would have terrified me. Now it felt like stepping out of a room where I had been holding my breath for years. I gathered my tablet, my notebook, and the printed Meridian timeline with my annotations. When I stood, Nathan did too. Olivia. I stopped, but I did not turn quickly. That was another old habit I refused to obey. Yes. My office. Now. The old Olivia would have followed. The old Olivia would have heard the tension in his voice and mistaken it for importance. I checked the time on my phone. I have an HR appointment in 4 minutes. Cancel it. No. His eyes darkened. Vanessa, still at the table, watched us with open fascination now. She looked less amused, more alert. Nathan stepped closer. You are making a mistake. I met his gaze. No. I made one for 5 years. Today I corrected it. For a second, his expression changed. It was not remorse, I would not give him that much credit. It was calculation. He lowered his voice. Is this because of Vanessa? There it was. The insult inside the question. Not because he had humiliated me. Not because he had erased my work. Not because he had taken and taken and taken until there was almost nothing left. Because of Vanessa. I looked past him to where she sat, bright and delicate and waiting to be fought over. No. I said. This is because of me. Then I walked out. The hallway outside conference room 12 was brighter than I remembered. Maybe nothing had changed. Maybe I had. My phone vibrated before I reached the elevators. Nathan Cole. Come to my office. I deleted the message. Then another. Nathan Cole. Olivia. Don't turn this into a scene. I deleted that too. Then Vanessa. Vanessa Blair. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable in there. Nathan is just under a lot of pressure. Please don't punish him for caring about the team. I stared at the message. In my last life. I had replied within seconds. Something apologetic. Something humiliating. Something like, it's okay. I know he didn't mean it. This time. I took a screenshot. I saved it to the folder labeled transition evidence. Then I blocked her number. The HR office was on the 8th floor. I had been there only twice before. Once for onboarding. Once to sign Nathan's assistant director promotion paperwork because he had been traveling and asked me to handle the boring part. I had not even noticed the irony then. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. Ms. Hayes. Miriam Roth is waiting with Dana from HR. Miriam stood when I entered. She was in her early 50s with silver-threaded dark hair cut to her jaw and glasses that made her look more patient than she probably was. In my last life. I had barely known her. Compliance and risk sat 2 floors away and felt like another country. 2 months before my death. Miriam had stopped me in an elevator and said, you know, Olivia, competence is not the same as servitude. I had smiled politely. I had not understood, or maybe I had refused to. Now she looked at me as if she had been expecting me to arrive carrying smoke from a fire. Close the door. She said. I did. Dana from HR looked nervous. We received a call from Mr. Cole's office. I'm sure you did. Miriam said. Dana swallowed. He is requesting a pause on the transfer pending departmental impact review. Miriam sat down. Is there a policy basis? Dana glanced at the screen. No. The receiving department accepted. Olivia meets eligibility requirements. Current manager was notified within the required window. The move is lateral with scope change. No disciplinary hold. Then there is no pause. Miriam said. My throat tightened, not from sadness. From the strange shock of being protected by policy instead of proximity. Dana turned to me. Olivia, do you confirm you still wish to proceed? There was a version of me, the one Nathan had trained without touching, who almost looked toward the door as if he might appear, as if his opinion still had legal weight over my choices. I placed both hands flat on the table. Yes. I said. I confirm. Dana clicked something. Then the transfer remains effective at 5 p.m. Miriam slid a folder toward me. Your new role is Senior Risk Integration Lead. You'll support project governance reviews, cross-functional controls, and client commitment audits. You'll report to me. Your first assignment is the Meridian post-approval risk map. The Meridian account. Of course. My pulse shifted. In my last life, Meridian had been the beginning of the end. The leak. The investigation. The board's panic. Vanessa's tears. Nathan's silence. Miriam watched me closely. Is that a problem? No. I said. It's useful. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. Good. Because I did not hire you to hide. I hired you because you know where the bodies are buried. Dana looked alarmed. Miriam ignored her. I opened the folder. Inside was a clean job description, defined hours, approval chains, documentation standards, boundaries written in corporate language. I had never seen anything more romantic in my life. Not because I loved Miriam. Not because a job could heal a wound. Because every line said the same thing. You are not infinite. When I left HR, Nathan was waiting by the elevator. Of course he was. He stood alone, one hand in his pocket, his expression controlled. People walked around him with the quiet caution employees used around executive weather. I stopped several feet away. You went to HR, he said. I told you I had an appointment. You embarrassed me in there. It was such a Nathan sentence. Not I embarrassed you. Not I should not have read your request aloud. Only you embarrassed me. I felt something old inside me fold itself away. No. I said. You embarrassed yourself. His jaw tightened. Careful. That used to work on me. A flicker crossed his face. What? That tone. I said. The warning. The disappointment. The assumption that I'd rather swallow anything than lose your approval. I pressed the elevator button. I don't need it anymore. The doors opened. He stepped forward as if to follow. I turned, blocking him with my body before he could enter with me. This is not your floor. His eyes moved over my face. For a moment, he seemed to be searching for something familiar and failing to find it. You're angry, he said. I was angry in my last life. I almost said. Instead I said, I'm clear. Clear people don't make impulsive transfers. The request was drafted 6 weeks ago. That landed. His gaze sharpened. You planned this for 6 weeks and said nothing. I thought of the other timeline, the transfer I had drafted, the courage I had killed before it could save me. Yes. Why? Because I died waiting for you to see me. Because you gave my work to Vanessa and my reputation to the wolves. Because when I was alone in a hospital bed, your company asked me to cooperate with the destruction of my own name. Because I finally understood that loyalty without respect is just unpaid damage. The elevator began to close. Nathan put his hand against the door. Olivia. It was the first time that day his voice lost its edge. The old Olivia would have lived on that softness for a week. This Olivia looked at his hand. Move. He did not. I reached to the panel and pressed door open. Then I stepped out. His brows drew together. I walked past him toward the stairwell behind me. I heard him say my name again. I did not answer. By noon, my handover document was 23 pages. That was the benefit of being the person who had actually done the work. I knew where everything lived. I knew which client promises had been made verbally and which had paper trails. I knew which of Vanessa's ideas had legal risks disguised as creative direction. I knew which vendor had been approved only because Nathan trusted her introduction. I wrote everything down. Task owner, deadline, risk level, supporting files, required approvals, prior exceptions, no emotion, no accusation, just facts. Facts had failed me in my last life because I gathered them too late. This time, I treated them like oxygen. At 1:15, Vanessa appeared at my desk. The old strategic operations floor looked the same, but it already felt like a museum of a bad decision. My plant by the monitor. Nathan's preferred pen brand in the supply drawer. The emergency blazer I kept because he sometimes pulled me into investor meetings without warning. Vanessa rested one hand on the edge of my cubicle. Can we talk? No. She blinked. I just think there's been a misunderstanding. There hasn't. Her smile thinned. Nathan is very upset. I'm sure he'll survive. That was the first time I saw the mask slip, only for a second. Vanessa was used to being treated gently. Not because she was kind, but because she had mastered fragility as a weapon. People lowered their voices around her. Men became protective. Women became careful because no one wanted to look cruel. I no longer cared how I looked in her story. She stepped closer. You know, if this is about me joining the Meridian team, I never wanted to take your place. You didn't take my place. I said. You took credit for my work. There's a difference. Color rose in her cheeks. That's not fair. No. It wasn't. I clicked send on the handover email and copied HR, Miriam, Harold Pierce, Nathan, and the project owners. Vanessa's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. Her eyes widened slightly. The subject line was clear. Strategic Operations Handover, Effective Transition Documentation, Olivia Hayes. She scrolled. I watched her read just enough to realize that every task had an owner, and every owner had a history, including her. She looked up. You copied the board. I copied the independent director who requested it. You're making this hostile. No. I said. I'm making it documented. Nathan's office door opened. He stepped out, saw Vanessa at my desk, and moved toward us. What's going on? Vanessa turned immediately, her expression softening into hurt. I only wanted to apologize. She said. Olivia is angry with me. Nathan looked at me once. That would have been enough to make me defend myself. Now I waited. He expected me to fill the silence. I let it grow teeth. Finally, he said, Olivia, don't make this personal. I smiled, not warmly. You made it personal when you read my transfer request aloud and accused me of trying to get your attention. His face hardened. Several people nearby became very interested in their monitors. I stood and picked up the small cardboard box I had brought from home that morning. Nathan looked at it. "You're packing now." "My transfer is effective at 5 o'clock. It's 1:20. I'm efficient." Vanessa's fingers tightened around her phone. Nathan said, "We still need you on Meridian." "No," I said. "You need the work I already did. It's in the handover. You know that's not the same." There, a crack of truth. Small. Accidental. But real. I looked at him. "Then you should have valued the person doing it." I placed my spare phone charger into the box. Then the framed photo of my sister and me at the coast. Then the emergency blazer folded neatly on top. Nathan watched as if each object were an argument he did not know how to answer. When I opened the drawer with his coffee cards, restaurant notes, and travel preference printouts, I did not put them in the box. I placed them on the desk. "What are those?" he asked. "Things that belong to your life. Not mine." His eyes dropped to the top card. Elaine Cole, cardiology follow-up. Thursday 10:30. Send lilies for board dinner hostess. Nathan hates aisle seats unless red-eye. Vanessa prefers oat milk but forgets to ask. Do not schedule calls with Frankfurt before Nathan eats. I had once considered these details intimacy. Now they looked like unpaid labor. Vanessa stared at the cards. Nathan's face went still. I picked up the box. "I'll send the final access confirmation after security processes the card." I walked toward the elevators. This time, Nathan did not stop me, not physically. But my phone buzzed before I reached the doors. "Nathan Cole. You're overreacting." Then another. "Nathan Cole. We can fix this if you stop escalating." Then another. "Nathan Cole. I need you to stay through Meridian." I looked at the last one. There it was, finally. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I was wrong." Only "I need you." In my last life, those 3 words would have owned me. In this one, they sounded like a bill being sent to the wrong address. I turned off read receipts. Then I forwarded the messages to my personal archive. At 4:58, I handed my strategic operations access card to security. My badge updated. Compliance and risk. My phone buzzed again. "Nathan Cole. Come back upstairs." I stepped into the elevator and pressed 8. For the first time in 5 years, I went to a floor where Nathan Cole had no authority over me. The doors closed. And somewhere above me, a man who had never noticed the leash in his hand finally realized it had been cut. The first morning after I left Nathan's department, I woke up before my alarm. For 5 years, waking early had meant checking for damage, Nathan's messages, Vanessa's forgotten deliverables, Elaine Cole's appointment reminders, investor changes from Europe, client anxiety from the West Coast, a broken slide, a missing car, a dinner reservation, a crisis that was rarely mine but somehow always became my responsibility. My hand reached for my phone before I was fully conscious. Then I remembered. I was not his emergency contact anymore. I lay still in the dim morning light of my apartment, staring at the ceiling. The silence felt almost suspicious. No unread messages from Nathan. No passive-aggressive voice note from Vanessa. No calendar alert reminding me that Elaine Cole preferred her blood work appointments before lunch because she hated fasting. Nothing. For a moment, grief moved through me, not for Nathan. For the woman who had mistaken exhaustion for purpose. I got out of bed, made coffee for myself, and drank it while it was still hot. That alone felt like rebellion. At 8:30, I arrived on the compliance and risk floor. It was quieter than strategic operations, fewer glass walls, more closed doors, less performance. People spoke in complete sentences instead of executive fragments. No one shouted across the room for me to jump in for a second, which had always meant losing 3 hours. Miriam met me at my new desk with a stack of folders. Meridian risk map, she said. Vendor commitments. Client approval chain. Data access structure. And public launch dependencies. Start with whatever looks wrong. That could be a long list. Good. Long lists are why we hire competent people. I looked at her. She did not smile. But her eyes warmed. Also, she added, Nathan's office called twice before 8 o'clock. I took off my coat. What did they want? You. The word landed differently when Miriam said it, not like desire. Like a resource request. And what did you say? I said you work here now. A strange pressure rose behind my eyes. I looked down at the folders. Thank you. Do not thank people for respecting a transfer form, she said. It lowers standards. I almost laughed. Maybe I did laugh a little. It sounded rusty. By 9:15, the first official request came through. From Nathan Cole to Olivia Hayes. CC Miriam Roth. Dana Price. Subject: Meridian Continuity Support. Olivia, given your prior involvement in Meridian, I need you to remain available for continuity questions through launch. This includes direct calls as needed. Please confirm. Nathan. I read it once, then again. In my last life, direct calls as needed had meant midnight, Sunday, elevators, hospital waiting rooms, airport lounges, and once, the hallway outside my father's memorial service. I wrote back, Nathan, please route all Meridian-related questions through the formal transition tracker. I am available for documented risk review within my current role and reporting line. I am not available for direct calls outside approved workflow. Olivia. Miriam looked over from her office doorway. Good. You read it. You copied me. Still. She lifted one shoulder. Concise. No apology. Keep doing that. Nathan did not reply for 12 minutes. Then my phone rang, not Teams. My personal phone. Nathan. I watched his name flash on the screen. There were muscle memories deeper than thought. My thumb wanted to answer. My stomach tightened as if I had already done something wrong. I let it ring. He called again. I turned the phone face down. A minute later, a message arrived. Nathan Cole. If you're trying to prove a point, you've proved it. I saved it. Then I changed his contact name from Nathan Cole to Do Not Answer. It felt childish for half a second. Then it felt accurate. At 10 o'clock, I opened the Meridian Data Access structure. The first red flag appeared within 11 minutes. Vanessa Blair had consultant-level access to a folder she did not need. In my last life, I had discovered that after the leak, too late. This time, I documented it, attached the access screenshot, and sent a control review request to IT security. Daniel Kim replied within the hour. Good catch. We'll review permission history and login logs. Do you want compliance copied? I looked at the message. In my last life, I had trusted people to be reasonable. Now I trusted paper trails. Yes. I replied. Please copy Miriam Roth and retain audit records. At 11:40, another email arrived from Strategic Operations. This one was not from Nathan. It was from Vanessa. Subject: Quick help. Hi Olivia. I know things are tense, but I'm trying to update the Meridian emotional positioning sheet and can't find the final version you used. Could you send it? Nathan needs it before lunch. I stared at the message. The final version she needed was in the handover folder. I had included the path. She either had not read it or wanted me to send it privately so she could claim she had asked casually and received my help. I replied with the tracker link and copied the project distribution list. Vanessa. The final approved version is listed in the handover tracker under Workstream 3. Client messaging. With file path and approval status. Please use the tracker for transition questions. Olivia. 3 minutes later. Nathan emailed. There is no need to copy half the company on simple questions. I replied. Documented transition prevents confusion. He did not answer, but I could almost see his face. That was the dangerous thing about loving someone for years, even after you stopped. Your body still knew the shape of their irritation. By noon, the strategic operations floor had sent 7 questions that were already answered in the handover document. By 2 o'clock, Nathan had called my personal phone 4 times. By 4 o'clock, Vanessa had posted a photo on the company's internal social board. Working hard with the Meridian Dream Team. So grateful for leaders who trust creative courage. The photo showed her in Nathan's office, sitting at the small round table where I used to revise his presentations. Nathan stood behind her chair pointing at a document. His face was serious. Hers was bright. The old Olivia would have stared until she found a way to hurt herself with it. This Olivia looked at the document visible in the corner of the photo. Then I zoomed in. My stomach went cold. It was the wrong draft. Not just wrong, dangerous. Vanessa had pulled an early concept sheet that legal had rejected because it implied service guarantees Meridian had not approved. In my last life, that same language had triggered a client escalation. I had fixed it before launch, quietly, overnight, and no one had known. This time, I did not fix it. I took a screenshot. Then I sent a formal risk alert to Miriam Roth. Legal review. Meridian project distribution. Subject. Risk alert. Use of rejected messaging draft. Please note that the document visible in the attached internal post appears to be draft 2, one of the Meridian emotional positioning sheet, rejected by legal on March 14 due to unapproved service guarantee language. Final approved messaging is draft 4. 3, linked in the transition tracker. Recommend immediate confirmation that rejected language is not in circulation. I attached the screenshot. Miriam stepped out of her office 5 minutes later. Walk with me. We went to the small kitchen at the end of the floor. She closed the door. You understand what happens when you stop catching falling knives? She asked. They hit the floor. Yes. And people who got used to your hands being under them will accuse you of dropping them. I know. Do you? I looked at the reflection of my face in the dark microwave door. Yes. I said. This is not my first time bleeding for this project. Miriam was quiet. I had not meant to say that much. Finally, she said, do not bleed quietly here. It was an odd sentence. It stayed with me that evening. Nathan appeared on the 8th floor. The compliance and risk office was half empty. People left at reasonable hours there, another cultural shock. I was still processing. I was shutting down my computer when the glass door opened and Nathan walked in like he still owned every room I occupied. Miriam's assistant looked up. Can I help you? I need to speak with Olivia. The assistant glanced at me. I stood, but I did not move toward him. You can email me. Nathan's expression cooled. This is a 2-minute conversation. Then it will be a short email. The assistant suddenly found her screen fascinating. Nathan walked closer. You're creating friction. I'm enforcing workflow. You know how I work. Yes. I said. That's why I transferred. His eyes locked on mine for a heartbeat. The office around us seemed to fade. I remembered another evening. Another floor. Nathan standing too close after a successful investor dinner, removing his tie with one hand, saying, I don't know what I'd do without you. I had carried that sentence like a promise. It had never been one. Nathan lowered his voice. Meridian is too important for this. Then use the approved documents. Vanessa made a mistake. Then Vanessa can correct it. His mouth tightened. You know she's not as operationally strong as you. There it was again, an admission dressed as a demand. I tilted my head. And yet she was credited as the person who brought clarity to the account. Nathan's gaze flicked away for half a second. A small thing, but I had learned to read him when it hurt me. Now I read him because it helped me. Olivia, no. I said. I haven't asked anything yet. You came here because Vanessa is overwhelmed. Legal is irritated. And the client team is asking why rejected language is back in circulation. You want me to clean it up quietly so no one has to acknowledge why it happened. He said nothing. I picked up my bag. I'm going home. It's 6:10. Yes. He looked genuinely confused. You never leave this early. I do now. I walked toward the door. He moved with me, not blocking me exactly, but close enough to remind me that he was used to occupying my path. Are you punishing me? He asked. The question was quiet. It almost sounded human. I stopped in the doorway under the bright office lights. I looked at the man I had once loved so completely that I had confused his needs with my own heartbeat. No. I said. I'm returning you to yourself. His brows drew together. What does that mean? It means your work is yours. Your choices are yours. Vanessa is yours. Your mother's appointments are yours. Your emergencies are yours. I stepped back just enough that there was clear space between us. I am mine. His face changed, not dramatically. Nathan never gave anyone that. But for the first time, I saw the sentence reach him. I left before he could answer. The company charity gala was 3 nights later. In my last life, I had organized every detail, not officially. Officially, events handled the gala. Unofficially, Nathan hated gala logistics and Vanessa found them draining. So I had handled the seating chart, the donor notes, the speech cards, Elaine's transportation, and Nathan's emergency cufflinks. This year, I did nothing. I attended because compliance had a table and Miriam told me visibility mattered when people were trying to rewrite your story. Wear something that does not apologize, she said. So I did, a black dress. Simple. Sharp. No soft cardigan to make myself seem less threatening. No pinned-up hair to look efficient. No emergency bag stuffed with Nathan's spare notes. When I walked into the ballroom, conversations shifted. People knew, not all of it, but enough. Olivia transferred. Nathan was furious. Vanessa cried. Meridian had a risk alert. Gossip traveled faster than governance. I took a glass of sparkling water from a tray and crossed the room without looking for Nathan. That was harder than I expected. Not because I wanted him. Because for 5 years every room had been mapped around him, where he stood, who approached him, whether his glass was full, whether he needed rescue from a donor, whether Vanessa was nearby. Love had made me observant. Self-respect made me selective. Miriam introduced me to 2 people from the audit committee. I made polite conversation. I laughed once and realized it did not sound forced. Then the lights dimmed. The program began. Nathan walked on stage to give the opening remarks. He looked perfect, he always did. Dark tuxedo, calm face, controlled stride. Vanessa sat at the front table in pale blue, gazing up at him with practiced admiration. I had written his gala remarks for 4 years, not the whole speech. He would have said, just polished it, but I knew his cadence better than he did. I knew where he paused too long, where he lost warmth, where he needed a human detail because otherwise he sounded like a shareholder letter wearing a suit. This year, he held 2 note cards, not mine. He began well. Good evening. On behalf of Larkspur Group, thank you for joining us tonight as we support the Bright Harbor Foundation. Smooth, formal, empty. 3 minutes in, a donor name was wrong. Not slightly wrong, wrong person, wrong foundation. A ripple moved through the room. Nathan corrected himself, but the rhythm broke. Vanessa lowered her eyes. I did not move. Then he reached the Meridian mention. My body knew the line that should have come next. A brief story about rural clinics and supply chain access. A human bridge between corporate strategy and charitable giving. I had used it in the draft every year because it made Nathan sound less like a machine. Instead, he read a sentence from Vanessa's brand sheet. At Larkspur, we believe emotional trust is the ultimate market differentiator. The ballroom went flat. Someone coughed. Miriam sipped her wine. Nathan's eyes moved once across the room. They found me. I looked back. Expression neutral. He paused for half a beat, then continued. He recovered because he was Nathan. He would never collapse on stage. But he did not shine. He did not command. He got through it. For the first time, the room saw the difference between a man with support and a man without it. After the speech, Vanessa rushed to him. I watched her touch his sleeve. Speaking quickly. He listened, but his gaze moved past her to me. I turned away. That was when Elaine Cole appeared. Nathan's mother had the kind of elegance money could maintain but not create. She was tall, silver-haired, wrapped in navy satin, with diamonds at her ears and judgment in her posture. Olivia, she said. Mrs. Cole. Her eyes moved over my dress. You look different. I am. She did not like that. I heard you moved departments. Yes. That must be difficult for Nathan. I almost smiled. Is it good for you? Not difficult for Nathan. Some patterns were so consistent they became comedy. I'm sure he can manage. I said. Elaine's mouth tightened. He relies on you. He relied on me. Her eyes sharpened. You sound bitter. No. Accurate. Vanessa approached before Elaine could answer. Mrs. Cole, she said warmly, kissing the air beside Elaine's cheek. You look beautiful. Elaine softened at once. Vanessa was good at that, entering conversations as if she had been invited by the emotional weather. Then she turned to me. Olivia, I hope you're enjoying the evening. I know these events can feel awkward when things are changing. Not awkward, I said. Just educational. Nathan joined us seconds later. Close up. I could see the tension at the corner of his mouth. Mother. He said. Vanessa. Then, after a beat, Olivia. He said my name differently. I hated that I noticed. Elaine touched his arm. Your speech was very dignified. Mothers were allowed to lie. Vanessa smiled. I thought the emotional trust line worked beautifully. Miriam, who had drifted near enough to hear, made a small sound that might have been a cough. Nathan ignored her. His eyes stayed on me. You didn't think so. In my last life, being asked for my opinion in front of his mother would have felt like a blessing. This time, I saw the trap. If I praised him, Vanessa won. If I criticized him, I looked petty. So I said, it matched the approved speaker notes. Nathan's face stilled. Vanessa's smile faltered. Elaine looked between us. What does that mean? It means I hope the speech went through the right review channel. I said pleasantly. Gala remarks sometimes reference active accounts. Miriam stepped in. Compliance is reviewing external language more after the Meridian draft issue. Elaine frowned. What Meridian draft issue? Vanessa's hand tightened around her clutch. Nathan said. Nothing that concerns the gala. But it did. Everything concerned everything now. Because the walls Vanessa had hidden behind were made of favors, not facts. The program coordinator hurried over then. Saving them. Mr. Cole, the Bright Harbor chair is asking for you. Nathan looked like he wanted to continue the conversation. I don't enjoy the evening, I said. I walked away with Miriam. When we were out of earshot, Miriam said, you enjoyed that. A little. Good. Petty. When properly documented. Is just moral. This time, I did laugh. At 10:30, I left the gala alone. The March air outside the hotel was sharp and clean. Cars lined the curb. Drivers opened doors. People spilled out behind me, their voices bright with wine and gossip. I was halfway down the steps when Nathan called my name. I kept walking. He caught up near the valet stand. Olivia. I stopped because we were in public and running would have implied fear. What? He looked behind us once. Then back at me. You blocked Vanessa. Yes. She was upset. I'm sure she found an audience. His eyes narrowed. You weren't like this before. No. I said. Before. I was useful. That's not fair. Fair would have been crediting my work before I left. Fair would have been not accusing me of emotional manipulation in front of the executive team. Fair would have been asking why someone who supported you for 5 years felt she had to transfer departments to breathe. His expression shifted. I had said too much. No. I had said enough. Nathan stepped closer. I didn't know you felt that way. It was the laziest apology in the world. I looked at him under the hotel lights and finally understood something. He was not lying. He truly had not known, because knowing would have required him to look. You didn't want to know, I said. A car pulled up. Mine. I opened the door. Nathan reached for it, not touching me, but stopping the motion. Come back for Meridian, he said quietly. Just until launch. There it was again. Not come back because I hurt you. Not come back because I was wrong. Only come back because the machine is missing a part. I removed his hand from the car door. No. Olivia, I said no. Name your terms. I stared at him. The old Olivia would have heard romance in that. He wants me enough to negotiate. The new Olivia heard procurement. You still think I'm something you can buy back. His face hardened. That is not what I meant. It's what you know. I got into the car. Before I closed the door. I looked at him one last time. Nathan, you're not missing me. You're missing who I was when I had no boundaries. Then I shut the door. The car pulled away. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, I thought it was Vanessa using another phone. It was not. The message contained a photo. My old strategic operations folder open on a laptop screen. Then a line of text. You should have stayed helpful. I stared at the image. The laptop in the reflection showed a pale blue sleeve, Vanessa's gala dress. I saved the photo. Then I sent it to Miriam and Daniel Kim. By the time I reached home, Daniel had already replied. Do not engage. We'll check access logs first thing. I sat in my dark apartment, phone in hand, and smiled without warmth. In my last life, Vanessa had moved in shadows while I cleaned up the mess she made. This time, I had left the lights on. The next morning, Daniel Kim sent the first access report. It was not complete, but it was enough to confirm what I already knew. Someone had attempted to access the old Strategic Operations archive at 11:12 p.m. from a consultant laptop assigned to Vanessa Blair. The login failed because my permissions had been removed at 5 p.m. on transfer day. A second attempt was made using a shared project credential that should have been retired months ago. That attempt succeeded. The file opened was meridian_positioning_drafts_archive. Zip. I read the report 3 times, not because I was surprised, because I wanted to remember how it felt to see the trap before it closed. In my last life, that archive had become the weapon. Vanessa used language from a rejected draft, leaked it through a vendor channel, then claimed the folder had come from me. The old shared credentials still had my name in the notes because I had created the project workspace back when everyone was in a hurry and no one cared about clean ownership. By the time the leaks surfaced, Nathan had looked at me across a legal conference table and said, "Olivia, if there is anything you need to tell us now. Not I believe you. Not this doesn't sound like you. Only if there is anything you need to tell us." I had told him the truth. He had believed Vanessa's tears instead. Now, I forwarded Daniel's report to Miriam and saved it in the evidence folder. Miriam called me into her office 10 minutes later. "This is bigger than sloppy access," she said. "Yes. You expected it." I looked at her. Miriam was not asking casually. In this life, I had to be careful. I could not tell her that I remembered my own ruin. I could not say that death had become the most expensive training program in the world. So I gave her a truth she could use. I expected someone to test old permissions after I stopped answering private requests. Miriam studied me. That is a very specific expectation. I spent 5 years being the workaround. I said, "I know what people reach for when the workaround disappears." She accepted that. Daniel is pulling full logs. Legal will lock the archive. For now. You do not confront Vanessa. I wasn't planning to. Good. People like Vanessa need room to believe they are clever. I almost smiled. Then my phone rang. Elaine Cole. I stared at the name. For years, I had answered Elaine faster than I answered my own sister. Nathan's mother had never been cruel in an obvious way. That was part of her power. She made requests sound like trust. She made entitlement sound like family. She praised me just enough to make me hungry, then reminded me I was not actually one of them. "Olivia, dear." Nathan forgot my cardiology appointment again. "Could you know what wine Harold Pierce likes? Can you arrange the dinner, Olivia? Vanessa is delicate. Please do not make her feel unwelcome. Olivia, you understand Nathan better than anyone. Don't make his life harder." In my last life, Elaine had visited me once after the investigation began, not at my apartment, not at the hospital, at a private club. She had looked at me across a linen-covered table and said, "A graceful woman knows when to absorb blame quietly." I had been too broken to answer. Now I let the call go to voicemail. A message followed. Elaine Cole. "Olivia, darling, I hope you can come to dinner tonight. We need to clear the air. Nathan will be there. Vanessa too. 7 o'clock, you know the house." I showed Miriam. She read it and raised one eyebrow. "Do you want advice or permission?" "Neither." "Good. I'm going." Her other eyebrow lifted. "I need them to say certain things out loud," I said. Miriam leaned back. "Then make sure you are in a one-party consent state before recording." I checked. She smiled for real this time. "Of course you did." The Cole house sat behind black iron gates and old trees in the kind of neighborhood where wealth did not need to announce itself because zoning had already done it. I had been there dozens of times: holiday dinners, donor planning, Elaine's recovery after minor surgery, Nathan's memorial anniversary, Vanessa's welcome back brunch. I had never arrived as a guest. I had always arrived with something in my hands: flowers, seating charts, medication lists, last-minute printouts, a replacement tie, a hostess gift Nathan had forgotten to buy but would sign his name to later that night. I brought a folder. Nothing else. The housekeeper opened the door and looked relieved to see me. Ms. Hayes. Mr. Cole is in the dining room. Of course he was. The dining room glowed with warm light, polished wood, and quiet money. Elaine sat at the head of the table. Nathan stood by the fireplace, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. Vanessa sat beside Elaine in a pale sweater, looking like someone's cherished younger daughter. 3 settings were placed near the head. Mine was at the far end. I almost laughed. Even their seating chart had a hierarchy. Elaine rose with a smile. Olivia, you came. You invited me. Nathan watched me carefully. Vanessa smiled. I'm glad. I hate tension. No. I said, taking my seat. You create it very efficiently. Vanessa's smile froze. Elaine's eyes sharpened. Nathan said, Olivia. There was the warning tone again. I placed my folder beside my plate. Should we eat first? Or should we clear the air first? Elaine sat slowly. I see you've brought your new attitude with you. I brought records. Nathan's gaze dropped to the folder. What records? Let's find out what this dinner is about first. Elaine folded her hands. This dinner is about family. I looked around the table. I'm not family. The words hung there. In my last life. That sentence would have tasted like defeat. Now it tasted like freedom. Elaine's expression softened in the way that used to pull me closer. Olivia, don't be dramatic. You have been part of Nathan's life for years. No. I worked for Nathan for years. Nathan looked at me. That's not all it was. My chest tightened. There, a crumb. Too late. But still shaped like the thing I had once starved for. I did not pick it up. Then you should have named what it was when it mattered. Vanessa looked down at her napkin. Elaine exhaled. This is exactly why I asked you here. You are hurt. And hurt women make reckless decisions, transferring departments, embarrassing Nathan at work, refusing to help Vanessa with Meridian. It looks petty, does it? Yes, Elaine said. Men in Nathan's position carry enormous pressure. The women around them must be wise enough not to add to it. I looked at Vanessa. She must be very wise. Vanessa's eyes filled instantly. I don't know why you hate me so much. I opened the folder. Nathan moved just a fraction. But I saw it. Inside the folder were copies, not originals. I had learned. The first page was a spreadsheet. Elaine frowned. What is that? 5 years of personal tasks I performed for this family while employed by Larkspur Group. Nathan's face changed. Olivia, I continued. Medical appointments scheduled for Mrs. Cole. Prescription pickups. Donor dinners. Birthday gifts. Condolence flowers. Holiday seating. Travel changes. Private invoices paid on my card and reimbursed late or not at all. Vanessa's welcome brunch. Vanessa's apartment broker. Vanessa's lost passport replacement appointment. Vanessa whispered. That's not fair. I looked at her. You say that whenever facts arrive. Elaine picked up the spreadsheet. Her face tightened as she scanned it. I never asked you to keep a ledger. No. You asked me to keep your life running. Nathan's voice was low. Why bring this now? Because your mother invited me here to remind me of my place. I'm returning the map. I took out the second document, a calendar printout. Mrs. Cole, your next cardiology appointment is Thursday at 10:30. Nathan has the reminder now. Your prescription renewal is due next week. Nathan has the pharmacy contact. The Bright Harbor donor follow-up is in his calendar. Your driver's updated insurance card is in the household folder. Your son can handle your family from here. Elaine stared at me as if I had slapped her. You are being cruel. No. I said. I'm being absent. Nathan shut his eyes briefly. That, more than anything, told me he understood the difference. Vanessa leaned forward. Olivia, no one forced you to do those things. You wanted to be close to Nathan. You can't blame everyone because it didn't turn into what you hoped. The room went very quiet. There it was, the knife she had always kept polished. Nathan's eyes moved to her. Vanessa, but he did not deny it. Of course he did not. The old pain rose fast and hot. For a moment, the room blurred. I saw the hospital again, my phone lighting up, my chest aching, my reputation gone, Nathan's silence heavier than any accusation. I breathed through it. Then I smiled. You're right. Vanessa blinked. I wanted to be close to him. I wanted him to see me. I turned myself into a solution because I thought that if I solved enough problems, he might one day choose me. Nathan looked at me sharply. Elaine's face shifted with discomfort. Vanessa seemed unsure whether she had won. I continued. That was my mistake. But your mistake was assuming my embarrassment would make me obedient forever. I took out the third page, screenshots. Vanessa's messages. Could you make this sound more like Nathan? I don't want to bother him while he's stressed. You know Meridian better than anyone. Just fix the legal tone. Nathan gets annoyed when I ask too many technical questions. Can you handle it? Please don't tell him I missed the client prep. He already thinks I'm too emotional. Vanessa went pale. Nathan picked up the page. His eyes moved across the messages. For once, he did not speak immediately. Elaine looked at Vanessa. Did you send these? Vanessa's voice trembled. I was overwhelmed. Olivia always acted like she wanted to help. I did. I said. That's why it worked. Nathan looked at me then, not at Vanessa. At me. Something like realization moved across his face. Slow and unwelcome. Olivia. I closed the folder. No. He stopped. You don't get to say my name like that now. His mouth parted slightly. I stood. Elaine's chair scraped back. You're leaving? Yes. We haven't had dinner. I didn't come to be fed. I came to stop serving. Vanessa started crying, quietly at first, then with more sound when Nathan did not immediately comfort her. Elaine moved toward her. Nathan did not. He was still looking at me. Was it all this bad? He asked. The question was almost soft, almost enough to hurt. I picked up my coat. No. I said. Some of it was beautiful, because I lied to myself. That was the part that made it dangerous. He flinched just barely. I walked to the door. Behind me, Elaine said, Olivia, you will regret burning bridges. I paused, then turned back. Mrs. Cole, I spent 5 years building bridges no one else crossed. Burning them is maintenance. I left the house without waiting for the valet. The night air was cold. Halfway down the driveway, Nathan caught up to me. Of course he did. Wait. I kept walking. Olivia. I stopped near the gate. He was breathing harder than usual, not from the walk. From restraint. What do you want from me? He asked. In my last life, I had dreamed of that question. I had imagined answering with dignity, with confession, with tears, with something that would make him finally understand the shape of my love. Now it seemed too small. I don't want anything from you. He looked almost angry at that. That's not true. It is. You can't just stop. I stared at him. There was the truth beneath all his elegance. He did not know how to be left by someone he had never formally held. I already did. I said. He stepped closer. Is there someone in compliance telling you to act like this? Miriam? Someone else? I laughed once. It sounded cold even to me. You still can't imagine me making a decision without being influenced by someone stronger. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. He dragged a hand through his hair, a gesture so unlike him that I almost looked away. Fine. Then tell me what to do. No. His eyes flashed. No, I'm not managing your emotional development too. For the first time, he looked genuinely wounded. It did not move me the way I thought it would. Maybe because I finally understood that his pain did not cancel mine. A car approached the gate. My ride share. I opened the back door. Nathan said, I didn't know you loved me. The words hit the air between us. For 1 second, everything stopped. There it was, the thing neither of us had said. The truth Vanessa had weaponized. The truth Elaine had patronized. The truth I had hidden under competence until it became indistinguishable from labor. I turned back to him. Yes, you did. His face went still. You knew enough to use it. You just didn't know enough to honor it. Then I got in the car. This time, when I closed the door, he did not touch it. The next day, Vanessa filed a complaint. The subject line arrived at 3:17 p.m. Formal concern regarding retaliatory conduct and Meridian data handling. I read it in Miriam's office. Miriam stood behind her desk while I sat with my laptop open. She's accusing you of creating a hostile environment after your transfer. Miriam said. Yes. and of restricting access to Meridian materials in a way that caused project delays. Yes. And of possibly retaining confidential draft files after leaving strategic operations. I looked at the screen. There it was, the shape of the old accusation. Different timing. Same knife. Miriam watched me. You're very calm. I've seen this kind of structure before. A complaint structure. A scapegoat structure. She nodded once. Daniel's full access log arrived 15 minutes ago. My pulse steadied. Does it show the archive access? Yes. Consultant laptop. Vanessa's credential. Shared project credential. Timestamp. IP location from the Gala Hotel network. The Gala, the photo she had sent me. The pale blue sleeve. Good. I said. Miriam gave me a look. Most people do not say, good, when they are formally accused. Most people are surprised. Are you? No. Miriam walked around the desk and placed a printed page in front of me. It was the report, clean, objective, deadly. My old name appeared only in the permission history, showing removal at 5 p.m. on transfer day. Vanessa's appeared in active access. The shared credential showed a login from a device registered to her consulting firm. I touched the edge of the paper. In my last life, I would have given anything for this page. Now it was just the beginning. Miriam sat across from me. We will have to proceed formally. Interviews. Hearing. Board notification because Meridian is material. I understand. Nathan will be involved. I assumed. Vanessa will cry. I assumed that too. Miriam almost smiled. Do you need time? I looked at the report, then at the complaint where Vanessa had described me as unstable, jealous, and retaliatory. In my last life, those words had destroyed me because some part of me had still believed them. Jealous? Yes. Hurt? Yes. Desperate to be seen? Yes. But unstable enough to sabotage my own work? No. Never. That difference was my spine now. No. I said. Schedule the hearing. Miriam nodded. As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed. Nathan, not a call this time. A message. Nathan Cole. We need to talk before this goes further. I stared at it. Then another message arrived. Nathan Cole. I can still keep this contained. I felt the old anger rise. Clean and sharp. Keep this contained. Not find the truth. Not protect you. Contain it. I typed one sentence. There is no private version of this conversation anymore. Then I sent it and copied Miriam. Within seconds, Nathan replied. Olivia. Just my name. I saved that too. That night, I slept 8 hours. The next morning, the hearing notice arrived. Internal compliance review, Meridian data handling and retaliation complaint. Attendees. Miriam Roth. Legal counsel. Daniel Kim. Harold Pierce. Nathan Cole. Vanessa Blair. Olivia Hayes. My calendar marked it in red. Friday. 10 a.m. Conference room 12. The same room where Nathan had read my transfer request aloud. The same room where I had put down my old access card. The same room where, in my last life, the beginning of my ruin had looked like a meeting. I looked at the notice for a long time. Then I opened my evidence folder and began arranging the files in order. Cause. Action. Consequence. New conflict. This time, I would tell the story before they wrote one for me. On Friday morning, I wore navy, not black. Black felt like mourning, and I was tired of dressing for the death of old versions of myself. Navy felt steadier. At 9:15, I arrived on the 8th floor and printed 3 copies of my timeline. Miriam had already reviewed the digital folder, but I wanted paper in the room. Screens could be minimized. Paper had presence. The timeline began 6 weeks earlier with the first draft of my transfer request, not because I needed anyone to know I had been unhappy, because I needed them to know I had been planning before Vanessa had any reason to claim retaliation. March 1st. Transfer draft created. March 3rd. Informational conversation with HR regarding internal mobility. March 5th. Miriam Roth exploratory meeting. March 10th. Meridian draft 2. 1 rejected by legal. March 11th. Vanessa Blair requested private assistance revising rejected draft. March 14th. Approved draft 4. 3 circulated. March 18th. Transfer request formally submitted. March 21st. Transfer approved. March 21st. 5 p.m. Olivia Hayes access removed from strategic operations. March 23rd. 11:12 p.m. Vanessa Blair consultant laptop attempted archive access. Facts in order could do what emotion could not. They could stand when I was tired. At 9:40, Miriam stepped into my office. Ready? Yes. You know Nathan asked for a private pre-meeting. I know. I denied it. Thank you. She looked at me over her glasses. Again with thanking people for basic procedure. Working on it. Good. We walked to conference room 12 together. I had thought returning there would hurt more. Instead, the room looked smaller. Maybe all rooms shrink once you stop begging them to include you. Harold Pierce was already seated, along with legal counsel. A woman named Andrea Mills who had the calm expression of someone paid to notice everything. Daniel Kim sat near the screen with his laptop open. Vanessa arrived next. She wore white. Of course. Her hair was pulled back loosely, and her eyes were already red. She carried no laptop, only a small notebook and a tissue folded around her fingers. Nathan arrived last. He looked at me before he looked at anyone else. I did not look away. He took the seat beside Vanessa, not beside me. Good, let everyone see that instinct. Miriam opened the meeting. This is an internal compliance review regarding Meridian data handling, transition conduct, and the retaliation complaint submitted by Vanessa Blair. This meeting will be documented. False statements may result in disciplinary action or contract termination. Does everyone understand? Everyone said yes. Vanessa's voice trembled on the word. Nathan's did not. Miriam turned to Vanessa. Ms. Blair, you submitted the complaint. Please summarize your concern. Vanessa inhaled slowly. I never wanted this to become formal. She began. That was how people like Vanessa started wars. I have always respected Olivia. She was an important part of Nathan's team, and I tried to be kind when she seemed upset about my role on Meridian. But after she transferred, she became cold and obstructive. She blocked me personally, copied large groups on simple questions, and restricted access to files I needed. Then Meridian drafts became confusing, and I started to worry she might have retained or manipulated documents out of resentment. Her voice broke. I hate saying that, but she made it clear she was angry because of Nathan and me. Nathan looked down at the table. Coward. Not because he did not defend me. I no longer expected that. Because even now, with stakes this high, he allowed her to wrap a data incident in the shape of my old love. Miriam took notes. Thank you. Mr. Cole, did you observe behavior that supports this complaint? Nathan's eyes lifted for a second. They found mine. There was a question in them, not a professional question. A plea for something. Do not make me choose. I had made choices for him for 5 years. This one was his. He looked away first. Olivia's conduct after the transfer was unusually rigid. He said. She refused direct continuity support despite her prior involvement in Meridian. Miriam's pen paused. Rigid meaning she followed the transition workflow. Nathan's jaw tightened. She knew the project context required flexibility. Is flexibility documented as an expectation in her new role? No. Was she required to take direct calls from your department after transfer? No. Did she provide a handover document? Yes. How long was it? Nathan was silent. Harold Pierce answered. 23 pages. My office received it. Miriam turned back to Nathan. Did you read it? A pause. I reviewed parts of it. There it was, the first small collapse. Vanessa shifted beside him. Miriam looked at me. Ms. Hayes. Your response. I opened my folder. My transfer was not retaliatory. It was initiated before the alleged conduct. My communication after transfer followed HR and compliance procedure. Every file request from Vanessa Blair was answered through the handover tracker. Every escalation I made related to documented risk. I passed out the timeline. No one spoke while the papers moved around the table. Nathan looked at the first page. His face changed when he saw the date. March 1st, 6 weeks. He had accused me of making an emotional scene. I had been leaving him quietly for 6 weeks. He just had not noticed. Andrea from legal leaned forward. Ms. Hayes, why did you draft the transfer request on March 1st? I could have said many things. Because I was tired. Because loving Nathan felt like starving in a kitchen. Because Vanessa had smiled at me while handing him work I had done. I said, because my role had expanded beyond documented responsibilities without corresponding authority, credit, or boundaries. I wanted a position with clearer governance. Andrea nodded. Do you have examples? Yes. I gave her the task ledger, not all of it. Enough. After-hours revisions. Personal errands. Vanessa corrections. Unlogged client prep. Nathan family support. Nathan's face tightened with every line. Vanessa looked down. Elaine was not in the room, but I could almost hear her voice. A graceful woman knows when to absorb blame quietly. I had decided to be graceless. Miriam moved to the data issue. Daniel, please walk us through the access logs. Daniel connected his laptop to the screen. The room lights dimmed. A table appeared, clean columns. User, device, timestamp, location, folder accessed. Result. Daniel's voice was flat. Olivia Hayes. Strategic Operations access was removed at 5 p.m. on March 21st, consistent with transfer timing. There is no successful login from Ms. Hayes after that time. At 11:12 p.m. on March 23rd, a consultant laptop assigned to Vanessa Blair attempted to access the Strategic Operations archive. Ms. Hayes. Old folder shortcut. That attempt failed. At 11:14 p.m. the same device accessed the archive using a shared project credential. That credential should have been retired. The accessed file was meridian_positioning_drafts_archive. Zip. Vanessa's tissue stopped moving. Miriam asked, was the access from Ms. Hayes? Device? No. From Ms. Hayes. Credentials? No. From a device assigned to Ms. Blair? Yes. Vanessa whispered. I didn't know. Nathan gave me access to some folders because I needed creative references. Everyone looked at Nathan. Nathan's face was unreadable. Daniel said. The shared credential was not assigned to Mr. Cole. It was used from Ms. Blair's consultant device. Vanessa's voice sharpened under the tears. Because Olivia removed herself from everything so suddenly. We were scrambling. I was trying to help. I looked at her. By sending me a photo of the archive and the message. You should have stayed helpful. For the first time, Vanessa looked truly afraid. Nathan turned to her. What photo? I handed the printed screenshot to Miriam. Miriam passed it to legal, then to Harold, then to Nathan. He stared at it. The reflection in the laptop screen was faint but visible, pale blue dress. The same dress Vanessa had worn to the gala. His eyes moved to Vanessa. She started crying harder. I was upset. She said. She humiliated me. She made everyone think I was incompetent. No. I said. I stopped hiding it. Vanessa flinched as if I had raised my hand. Andrea from legal spoke. Ms. Blair, did you send this message? Vanessa covered her mouth. I don't remember. Daniel said. We can request device records from the company phone if needed. She lowered her hand. Yes. She whispered. But I didn't leak anything. Yet. Miriam said. That single word changed the room. Vanessa looked up. Miriam continued. The rejected draft language appeared in a vendor pre-brief yesterday morning. We are still tracing the distribution path. Nathan went very still. That was new information, even to him. What vendor? He asked. Miriam ignored him. Daniel clicked to the next slide. The email header appeared, a boutique media consultant, forwarded from Vanessa's consulting email. Attached draft language. Timestamp 7:22 a.m. Vanessa stood halfway out of her chair. That was not a leak. That was a preliminary creative alignment. Andrea's voice cut in. With unapproved client language from a rejected draft. I didn't know it was rejected. I opened my copy of the handover document. It was marked rejected in the tracker. I also replied to your email directing you to the approved version. Vanessa snapped. You copied everyone to embarrass me. No. I said. I copied everyone so you could not later claim I never told you. Her face twisted. There she was. Not delicate. Not wounded. Just angry that the trap had springs on her side too. Nathan looked at me then. Really looked. I did not know what he saw. Maybe the woman who used to shield him. Maybe the woman who no longer would. Maybe finally, the cost of confusing my silence with consent. Harold Pierce leaned forward. Mr. Cole, as department head, were you aware Ms. Blair was using rejected Meridian language? Nathan took a slow breath. I was aware she was reviewing creative material. That was not my question. No, Nathan said. I was not aware she used rejected language. Were you aware Ms. Hayes had flagged that draft? Nathan's mouth tightened. Yes. Did you review the risk alert? A pause. Not in full. Harold sat back. Interesting pattern. The hearing continued for 93 minutes. I know because I watched the clock. Not because I was impatient. Because every minute felt like a brick removed from the wall that had buried me in my last life. Vanessa contradicted herself 3 times. Nathan admitted he had not read the full handover. Daniel confirmed the access logs. Legal confirmed that my post-transfer communications were procedurally appropriate. Miriam entered my transfer timeline into the record. When it was my turn to make a final statement, I did not look at Vanessa. I looked at Nathan, not because I needed him, because this was the last time I wanted him to hear my truth in a room where he could not interrupt it with private need. I did not transfer because I was jealous. I said, I transferred because my work, time, and judgment were being used without respect. I did not block access to Meridian files. I documented approved paths. I did not create confusion. I stopped privately correcting it. Nathan's eyes held mine. I continued. For years, I confused being close to power with being valued by it. That was my mistake. But I will not allow that mistake to become evidence against me. No one spoke. Then Miriam closed the folder. Thank you. The review panel will issue findings by end of day. Until then, Ms. Blair's Meridian access is suspended. Mr. Cole, all Meridian communications will go through documented channels. Ms. Hayes, you may return to your department. I stood. Vanessa remained seated, crying silently now. Nathan stood too. I left before he could speak. He followed me into the hallway. Of course he did. Olivia. I kept walking. Olivia. Stop. I stopped near the elevators, not because he ordered it, because I wanted to see what a man sounded like when his control finally failed. He came to stand in front of me. His face was pale beneath the office lights. I didn't know she sent that message. I know. I didn't know about the vendor email. I know. He looked frustrated. You keep saying that like it makes it worse. It does. His eyes searched mine. How? Because you didn't know. Because you didn't look. And you didn't look because looking would have made you responsible. That hit. I saw it. He looked away. Then back. I should have handled it differently. A small, bitter laugh escaped me. Which part? His jaw flexed. All of it. There it was, the closest thing to an apology Nathan Cole had ever offered me. Once, I would have taken it into my hands like a wounded bird. Now, I let it stand between us. Insufficient. He stepped closer. Come back to strategic operations. I stared at him for a second. I truly thought I had misheard. What? Not in the old role. A new one. Deputy Director. Direct authority over project governance. Reporting to me, but with expanded scope. I'll make sure you get credit. I felt nothing at first, then something colder than anger. You are offering me a promotion in the department where I was just accused of sabotage. I'm offering you what you deserved. No. I said. You're offering me what you can understand. His brows drew together. I'm trying to fix this. You're trying to put me back where you can reach me. The words came out quietly. He did not deny them fast enough. I smiled. And it hurt. There were still endings inside me, little ones. The death of every fantasy I had not known I was still carrying. Nathan. I said. Do you know what I wanted from you 5 years ago? His face changed. What? Nothing expensive. Nothing dramatic. I wanted you to see when I was tired. I wanted you to say my name when my work saved you. I wanted you to ask if I got home safe after midnight. I wanted you not to look through me when Vanessa walked in. His throat moved. I can do that now. That's the problem. He looked lost. Why? Because now it would be payment. The elevator doors opened behind me. I stepped inside. Nathan put one hand against the door again. But this time there was no command in it, only desperation. "Don't leave me," he said. The words were low, barely above a breath. For a heartbeat, the world became very quiet. There it was, the line the old Olivia would have died to hear. She almost had. I looked at his hand on the elevator door, then at his face. "I already left," I said. The doors tried to close. His hand stayed there. "Nathan," I said softly, "move." He looked at me for one long second. Then he moved. The doors closed between us. By 5 p.m. the findings came out. Vanessa Blair's Meridian access was suspended pending contract review. The vendor pre-brief was recalled. Her consulting firm was notified of a material breach. Nathan received a formal governance warning for failure to supervise consultant access and review risk alerts. Strategic operations was placed under temporary oversight for Meridian launch communications. My name was cleared, not quietly. The email went to the executive team, legal, HR, and the project distribution list. Facts in order. No apology. But I did not need an apology from a company. I needed the record corrected. At 6:20, Vanessa called from an unknown number. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was raw. "You think you won because you made Nathan doubt me. You don't understand him. He hates being cornered. He'll forgive me before he forgives you for exposing him." I saved the voicemail. Then I deleted the unknown number from my recent calls. At 7 o'clock, Nathan came to my apartment. I knew because the front desk called. "Ms. Hayes, Mr. Nathan Cole is here. He says it's urgent." Everything with Nathan was urgent when he wanted access. I looked around my apartment, clean kitchen, warm lamp, a book open on the couch, half-finished tea on the table. My life, small, maybe, but mine. "Tell him I'm not accepting visitors." A minute later, my phone buzzed. "Do not answer. Nathan Cole. I'm downstairs." I replied once. "Please leave. Do not come to my home again without permission." He called. I did not answer. Then a message. "Nathan Cole. I know why. Don't deserve it, but give me 10 minutes. I stared at the screen. In my last life, I had given him years. This time, I gave him nothing. I turned off my phone, for the first time since I had known him. Nathan Cole waited somewhere, and I did not go to him. The next morning, he was still not done. When I arrived at work, an envelope sat on my desk, no stamp, hand-delivered. Inside was a printed memo. Strategic Operations Role Proposal, Deputy Director. Project Governance, Salary Increase. Title Increase. Direct reporting line to Nathan. Authority Language. Credit Assurances. Meridian Leadership Visibility. Everything I had once wanted. Exactly when it no longer mattered. At the bottom was a handwritten note. "Olivia, you were right. I relied on you without seeing you. Let me correct it." I folded the proposal and placed it back in the envelope. Then I walked to the shred bin. Miriam watched from her office doorway. "Is that what I think it is?" "Yes. You don't want to keep it for leverage." "I have enough evidence." The shredder took the proposal slowly. Nathan's handwriting disappeared first. Miriam said nothing. I returned to my desk and opened the Meridian risk map. At 10 o'clock, a company-wide notice went out. Meridian launch review was moved to the main auditorium on Monday. The board would attend. Key stakeholders would present corrected governance steps. Nathan would speak. Vanessa would not. My name appeared on the agenda under compliance and risk. Olivia Hayes, Meridian Control Recovery and Transition Findings. I read the line twice. In my last life, my name had appeared in a notice of suspension. This time, it appeared beside the truth. At 11:13, Nathan sent one more message. "I'll see you Monday." I did not reply, because the next time Nathan Cole heard from me, it would be in front of everyone. Monday morning. Larkspur's main auditorium filled the way rooms fill when people smell consequence, quietly, quickly, with everyone pretending they had come only because the calendar required it. The Meridian account was too big to mishandle. It carried client revenue, investor confidence, and Nathan's reputation as the executive who never lost control. A week earlier, he had stood at the center of that reputation like it was architecture. Now the structure had visible cracks. I arrived with Miriam and Daniel. No dramatic entrance. No slow-motion revenge fantasy, just a laptop bag, a printed folder, and a body that had finally learned not to shrink. Nathan stood near the stage, speaking with Harold Pierce and Andrea from legal. He wore a charcoal suit and the expression of someone who had slept badly without allowing it to show. His eyes found me the moment I entered. I looked away first, not because I was afraid, because I could. That was a power I had not understood before. Not every gaze deserved to be met. Not every silence needed to be filled. Not every man who finally looked at you had earned the right to be seen back. The first part of the review was procedural. Legal summarized the vendor recall. Daniel summarized access remediation. Miriam summarized control failures and corrective governance. Nathan stood beside the podium, face composed, while other people described the weaknesses in the department he led. He did not interrupt. That alone told me the board had already warned him. Then Harold Pierce introduced me. Olivia Hayes from Compliance and Risk will walk us through the transition findings and revised control map. I stood. The room shifted, not loudly. No one gasped. This was corporate life, not theater, but attention changed texture. People who had whispered about me now watched me like the ending of their story might be wrong. I connected my laptop. The first slide appeared. Meridian Transition Control Map. Presenter: Olivia Hayes. Senior Risk Integration Lead. My name looked clean on the screen. I took a breath. Then I spoke. The Meridian issue was not caused by one missed email or one rejected draft. It was caused by a culture of informal workarounds, undocumented authority, and private corrections that hid risk until the person doing the correcting stepped away. The room went still. Nathan's eyes stayed on me. I continued. For clarity, my transfer from strategic operations to compliance and risk was approved before the disputed access incident. My post-transfer role was limited to documented transition and risk review. All questions were directed to the approved tracker. The evidence supports that process. I did not say Vanessa's name yet. I did not need to. The slides did what revenge speeches could not. They built, slide by slide, approved workflow, rejected draft, handover tracker, access removal, consultant laptop attempt, shared credential misuse, vendor pre-brief, recall and containment. Each fact was a stone placed exactly where it belonged. By the time Vanessa's name appeared on the access slide, no one could call it personal without looking foolish. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse Nathan of breaking my heart. I did not tell the room I had loved him so completely that I once forgot how to love myself. That truth was mine, not theirs. But I did say this. When a workplace depends on one person's unpaid memory, invisible labor, or emotional availability to function, the failure is not that person's eventual refusal. The failure is the system that mistook their sacrifice for process. Miriam looked down at her notes. I saw the corner of her mouth move. Nathan's face changed in a way only I would have known how to read. Pain. Real this time. Too late. But real. When I finished, the room was quiet for 2 full seconds. Then Harold Pierce said, "Thank you, Ms. Hayes." Not Olivia. Ms. Hayes. Respect had a sound. I returned to my seat. Nathan took the podium next. For the first time since I had known him, he looked smaller under bright lights, not weak, just human. He placed both hands on the sides of the podium. Strategic operations failed to maintain sufficient controls around Meridian documentation. He said, "As department head, I accept responsibility for that failure." A murmur moved through the room. Nathan Cole accepting fault was not common enough to pass unnoticed. His eyes moved to me. I also failed to recognize how much undocumented work was being carried by one employee. That should not have happened. One employee, not my name. Not yet. Maybe legal had told him to keep it neutral. Maybe his pride had. Either way, I felt no disappointment. I had stopped feeding on crumbs. The review ended with action items. Temporary oversight. Consultant contract termination process. Credential cleanup. Mandatory documentation standards. Meridian launch delay by 2 weeks. A costly but survivable correction for the company, not for everyone. Vanessa's consulting contract was terminated by Wednesday. Her firm issued a cold statement about internal review. Larkspur reserved rights for civil recovery related to the vendor pre-brief. She lost the carefully curated softness of her position overnight, because softness was useful only when someone else was willing to absorb the hard edges. Nathan lost direct control of Meridian. The board did not remove him entirely. Men like Nathan rarely fell in one dramatic motion. That would have been too easy and not very honest. Instead, they took pieces. Final approval authority, consultant hiring discretion, independent project governance, the ability to move without being watched. For a man built on control, that was its own punishment. As for me, my calendar became full, not with emergencies, with actual work. Miriam assigned me to lead the new cross-functional control framework. People who had once sent me vague requests now used subject lines, deadlines, and documented approvals. Some resented it, some adapted, a few thanked me quietly in elevators. Nathan kept trying, not loudly. That would have been easier to hate. He tried in ways designed to look professional. A note after the review. Good presentation. I replied, thank you. A meeting invitation for Meridian alignment. I declined and asked him to route through Miriam. A forwarded article about governance culture. I did not respond. A coffee left at my desk. I handed it to the kitchen with a note. Not mine. Then, on Friday, Elaine Cole called again. I almost did not answer. Then I decided I wanted one clean ending. Mrs. Cole. I said. There was a pause. Olivia. Her voice was less polished than usual. I heard about the review. I suppose I owe you an apology. I looked out the window of the small conference room I had stepped into. Below, traffic moved through downtown like nothing important had happened. You owe me several. I said. Silence. Then a small breath. Yes. I suppose I do. The old Olivia would have rushed to comfort her. I waited. Elaine continued. I depended on you too much. I told myself it was affection. It was convenience. That was more honesty than I expected. It did not heal me, but it clarified the room. Yes, I said. Nathan is not doing well. Of course, there it was. The turn. I closed my eyes briefly. Mrs. Cole, I'm not asking you to fix him. Good. Another silence. Then she said, he misses you. I opened my eyes. No, he misses access to me. I think it is more complicated than that. I'm sure it feels complicated to him. It is simple to me. Elaine's voice tightened. Do you hate him? I thought about that. Did I? I had hated him in the hospital of my last life. I had hated his silence, his blindness, his instinct to protect Vanessa, his ability to need me without choosing me. But hate required a cord, and the cord was thinning every day. No, I said. I'm done organizing my life around him. That's different. Elaine exhaled. I understand. I did not know if she did. It was no longer my job to make sure. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Cole. I ended the call. That evening, I went home and cooked dinner. Badly. My sister Maya video called halfway through and laughed at the smoke alarm chirping in the background. You look different, she said. So everyone keeps telling me. No, I mean you look alive. The knife paused in my hand. Maya did not know about the other life. She did not know she had cried outside a hospital room where I never woke up. She did not know I had spent my last conscious thought wishing I had answered her messages more often and Nathan's less. But somehow she had still said the right thing. I'm trying. I said. Good. Try with less burned garlic. For the first time in a long time. I laughed in my own kitchen. 2 weeks later, Meridian launched. Not perfectly. Perfect was often just chaos someone like me had hidden, but it launched cleanly. No unauthorized claims. No leaked drafts. No private corrections. No midnight calls. The client sent a formal note to Miriam praising the transparency of the recovery process. Nathan was copied. So was I. He sent a separate message. You saved Meridian twice. Once before I saw it. Once after I forced you to prove it. I stared at the message for a while. Then I typed. I saved myself. Meridian benefited. I sent it. He did not reply for 3 hours. Then, can we talk? Not as your boss. Not about work. I knew this was coming. Some endings require a final door. I agreed to meet him in the lobby cafe at 5:30. Public. Neutral. No alcohol. No late-night shadows for old feelings to hide in. Nathan arrived before me. He stood when I approached. That small courtesy hurt more than it should have. Because I remembered all the times he had stayed seated when I entered his office with work that had saved him. Olivia, he said. Nathan. We sat. He did not order for me, another small thing he had learned too late. For a minute neither of us spoke. Then he said, I don't know how to do this. At least that's honest. His mouth curved faintly, then faded. I've been replaying everything. That sounds unpleasant. I deserve that. Yes. He nodded once. No argument. I thought I was being responsible, he said, keeping lines clear. Not encouraging you. Not making promises. I looked at him. You encouraged what benefited you. He absorbed that. Yes. The word surprised me. He continued. I knew you cared. Maybe not how much, but enough. And I let it make my life easier. There it was, not perfect, not poetic, but true. I folded my hands around my cup. Thank you for saying it. His eyes lifted. That's all. What did you expect? He did not answer. But he did. We both did. Some part of him had expected confession to open a door. It did not. He leaned forward. I miss you. I did not answer immediately. The cafe noise moved around us, cups, low voices, elevator chimes, ordinary sounds from a world where people survived heartbreak every day. Finally I said, I know. His face tightened. I mean it. I know. That doesn't change anything. No. He looked down. When he spoke again, his voice was rougher. Was there ever a version where it could have? I thought of the old Olivia, the one who would have forgiven him for a fraction of this. The one who would have mistaken his guilt for love and his need for devotion. Yes. I said. He looked up quickly. There was a version of me who would have stayed if you had said almost anything kind. There was a version of me who would have taken the deputy director role and called it respect. There was a version of me who would have believed missing me was the same as loving me. His throat moved. What happened to her? She died. The words came out before I could soften them. Nathan went still. He did not know how literal they were. That was fine. Some truths were not for him. I continued. And I am not bringing her back so you can finally be gentle with her. His eyes shone. I had never seen Nathan Cole cry. He did not cry then. Not exactly. But grief reached his face and had nowhere elegant to go. I loved you, he said quietly. Too late. Not false. Maybe. But too late. I looked at him for a long time. Then I shook my head. No. You loved being understood. You loved being protected from inconvenience. You loved that I knew how to stand beside you without asking for space. That's not all it was. Maybe not. I said. But it was enough. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked older. What do you want from me now? That question again. This time, I had an answer. Distance. He flinched. I won't interfere with your role. I know Miriam would make sure of that. Despite everything, a faint breath of amusement moved between us. Then it disappeared. I stood. Nathan stood too. Olivia. I looked at him. He seemed to understand this was the last time he could say something and have it belong to the story. I'm sorry, he said. No explanation. No condition. No request attached. Just the words. For a moment, I felt the echo of the woman who had needed them. I let her have them. Then I let her rest. I believe you, I said. Hope flashed across his face. I ended it before it could grow. And I'm still leaving. I walked toward the elevators. He followed. Not too close. At the doors, he said, will you ever forgive me? I pressed the button. I already have. His breath caught. The doors opened. I stepped inside and turned back. Forgiveness is not access. The doors began to close. He stood outside, hands at his sides, finally not reaching to stop them. That was the last kind thing he did for me. 6 months later, I no longer worked on Meridian. Miriam promoted me to Director of Risk Integration after the control framework passed board review. The title mattered less than I thought it would. The authority mattered more. My calendar had white space. My phone stayed silent after 8 o'clock unless I chose otherwise. I visited Maya twice. I missed one non-urgent work call because I was at the coast watching the tide come in, and the world did not collapse. Vanessa's career did not vanish overnight, but it changed shape. Reputation is a fragile luxury for people who build it on charm. Her consulting firm settled quietly with Larkspur. The vendor dropped her. She posted vague messages online about women tearing down women until someone leaked the public portion of the compliance findings. After that, she posted less. Elaine sent flowers once, not lilies. A small arrangement of white tulips with a note. For the care I took for granted. I did not respond, but I kept the vase. Nathan remained at Larkspur, but not as he had been. The board oversight stayed. His department got smaller. His emails became more precise. People said he had changed. Maybe losing control had taught him something pain could not teach gently. I hoped so, from a distance. 1 year after the transfer, Larkspur hosted an industry forum on ethical growth and operational transparency. I was one of the speakers, not Nathan's support, not the woman behind the speech, the speaker. I stood on stage in a cream suit Maya had helped me choose and looked out at a room full of executives, clients, and analysts. Nathan sat in the third row. I had known he would be there. This time, his presence did not pull the room out of shape. I spoke about invisible labor, governance failures, and the danger of personality-driven systems. I spoke about documentation as respect. I spoke about boundaries not as resistance, but as infrastructure. At the end, someone asked, "What is the hardest part of changing a culture that has relied too long on informal sacrifice?" I looked out at the room for a second. My eyes met Nathan's, then moved on. "The hardest part," I said, "is accepting that some people will call you cold when you stop keeping them warm by setting yourself on fire." The room was silent. Then applause rose. Not thunderous at first. Steady. Growing. Afterward, Nathan approached me near the side exit. He looked different. Still handsome. Still controlled. But quieter in the way people become when life has finally refused to move around them. "Your talk was good," he said. "Thank you. I won't keep you." That sentence was new. I smiled a little. "No," I said. "You won't." For a moment, something passed between us, not longing, not hatred, recognition, maybe, of what had been, of what could not be. He nodded. "Take care, Olivia." "I will." And I meant it. I walked out of the conference hall alone. Outside, the late afternoon sun hit the glass buildings and turned them gold. My phone buzzed with a message from Maya asking if I wanted dinner. Miriam had sent a single line. "Well done." A recruiter had emailed about a board advisory opportunity. My calendar showed a weekend with nothing scheduled, no emergencies, no one waiting for me to save them, no man whose silence could decide my worth. At the curb, a black car pulled up, but I did not get in right away. I stood there for a moment, breathing. In my last life, I had died believing I had been abandoned. In this one, I learned the truth. I had abandoned myself first. Then I came back, not for revenge. Though revenge had been useful. Not for Nathan, though losing me had finally taught him the shape of absence. Not to prove Vanessa was false, though her lies had collapsed under their own weight. I came back for the woman who had answered every call except her own. So when my phone rang and Nathan's name did not appear, when no crisis demanded my body, when no old hunger pulled me back toward a closed door, I smiled. Then I opened my calendar and blocked out the entire weekend. Personal time. No explanation. No apology. No access. I had once believed love meant staying close enough to be needed. Now I knew better. Love, real love, began the day I stopped flattering a man who could not feel me disappearing until I was gone. And when he finally tried to keep me close, I had already chosen the one person I would never leave again, myself.